I'm Jeff Manion, and my deep joy in life is connecting people to the life-changing story of the Bible. Now, as we read the Bible or teach the Bible, there are certain things that kind of get in the way. And so I just want to talk briefly about 3 mistakes we make in connecting to the Bible. And so now mistake number 2, and mistake number 2 is this: we villainize the villains. Mistake number 2, we villainize the villains. So let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is a story that comes to us from Numbers chapter 11. The context is this: the children of Israel have escaped Egypt through the Exodus under Moses' leadership. Let my people go. The people go across the Red Sea. They move into the desert, and they're on their way to the promised land. And while they're there, God feeds them with this food substance called manna. It was just kind of these flakes that appear on the ground in the morning, and they would pick them up and they would grind them up in a mortar and pestle, and then they would add water and either make some type of mush, or they would bake it into cakes. Now, in Numbers 11, the Israelites have been in the desert for like 2 years. And they are sick of eating this manna, this foodstuff that God has provided. So the verses I'm going to read, they're reflecting back on all of the variety they had in Egypt and now how awful this manna is. So brace yourself. Numbers chapter 11, verse 4. If only we had meat to eat. Oh, we remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Also the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. And they go, we are sick of this stuff. Now, right now, it's possible to read that and take a very superior attitude and just kind of go, those people are idiots. I would never do anything like that. I mean, after seeing the miracles in Egypt and the plagues of Egypt and the Red Sea, I can't believe they're acting like that. But this is what I want to ask you to do. Rather than placing yourself above the characters, looking down on them, try this: embed yourself with the characters. That is, refuse to villainize the villains. Embed yourself with them. In my book, The Land Between, I talk about the heart of complaint. And when you're in this in-between space where you feel stuck and you're just experiencing sameness, the same thing over and over and over again, something that can surface is this heart of complaint that just goes, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. Just like the manna revolt in the desert. You go, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of living in my in-laws' basement. I'm sick of getting to the end of the month and not knowing which bills to pay and which bills not to pay. I'm sick of going in for medical test after medical test, still not having a clear diagnosis. I'm sick of going to bed at night and not knowing where my 17-year-old is. My friends, one of the dangers when we're in the land between, when we're in the desert, is a spirit of complaint that can surface in our lives. So, in the Numbers 11 manna story, rather than placing ourselves above the characters, embed yourself with them. It's a stance of humility and openness for God to work in us that just asks the simple question, where am I likely or tempted to do the exact same thing that they're doing? It's not a question we ask when we villainize the villains. 2 more examples. In 1 Kings chapter 21, there's a king by the name of Ahab, and Ahab has a palace, and there is a vineyard right next to his palace, and he wants to buy the vineyard from this guy. The guy's name is Naboth, and then turn it into a vegetable garden. So Ahab wants something. He wants to purchase the vineyard, and then he's going to have fresh grown vegetables right next to his palace. So Ahab goes to Naboth and he says, listen, I'll give you whatever money you think it's worth, or if you'd rather have another vineyard, I'll just buy you one that is equal or better. Now Naboth turns to the king, Ahab, and he says, God forbid that I should sell you the inheritance of my fathers. Basically, Naboth is saying that, look, this isn't just a real estate transaction. This isn't just a hunk of property. My grandfather grew grapes in this vineyard, and my dad grew grapes in this vineyard, and I harvested grapes in this vineyard, and this is going to go to my sons. This isn't a hunk of real estate. This is like a spiritual inheritance from God. Well, what's Ahab going to do? And we read in the verse, 1 Kings 21:4, it says, so Ahab the king went home, listen to this, sullen and angry, because Naboth the Jezreelite had said, I will not give you the inheritance of my ancestors. He lay on his bed sulking and refused to eat. We can read that and go, what a baby. I mean, he's a monarch and he's acting like a child. I mean, he went home sullen and angry, laid down on his bed, sulking and refused to eat. Does that sound mature to you? Now, beware of villainizing the villains rather than looking down on him. Instead, ask the question, man, where do I do that? Where am I tempted or inclined to behave like that? Here's the question. What do you do when you don't get what you want? He wanted a vineyard. He didn't get it. He goes home and sulks. Well, what do you do? What do you do when your heart is set on something and someone gets in your way? Do you sulk? Do you pout? Do you go home and kind of throw things around? Do you get very, very quiet, silent, and ice people out? Listen, guaranteed, when we want something very badly and don't do it, we do something. So place yourself alongside Ahab. Refuse to villainize the villain and go, man, when I don't get what I want, where does my heart go? I think this is a healthy question to ask and can connect us to the story of the Bible and allow God to do some deep work in our hearts through the story. One final example. Luke chapter 18, Jesus tells about two men that go to the temple to pray. One is a Pharisee, one is a tax collector. The Pharisee, the rule keeper, and the tax collector, kind of the scoundrel in Jesus' day. And it says, a Pharisee prayed like this. He said, Dear God, I thank you that I'm not like other people. And then he gives a list of other people he's glad he's not like. He goes, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or like that tax collector over there. You read that, and just where my heart immediately goes uncorrected is just, what a self-righteous, arrogant jerk. But think about it. When have you thought that? I mean, maybe you've never prayed, God, I thank you that I'm not like other people. But when have you thought that? I mean, she'll sleep with any drunken guy who grins at her. Thank God I'm not like that. They are so underwater financially. Every year they spend more than they make. It's uncorrected. It's out of control. Thank God we're not like that. A dude's been out of work for 2 years and he isn't even looking for a job. Thank God I'm not like that. Listen, all I'm asking you to do is just walk alongside the Pharisee and just go uncorrected. I can acquire a self-righteous, condescending attitude instead of a humility that opens myself up to God's mercy and God's grace. When you place yourselves among the characters rather than a position above them when you're looking down on them, it's a posture of humility when you stand alongside them. It's a posture of openness to be able to say, I am flawed. I have a sense of my own depravity, uncorrected. I know the dark places my heart can go. And dear Jesus, I need you very, very badly. Placing yourself among the characters is a posture that humbly asks for God to do his deep and abiding work in you and to transform you into the person you were created to be.